Hey guys, welcome back to the ExamRevision YouTube channel. My name is Ellen and today I'm going to be talking about the biggest mistakes you can make in your Junior Cert and Leaving Cert. Obviously the Junior Cert and the Leaving Cert are very quickly approaching, so I just have some tips from when I was doing the Leaving Cert and the Junior Cert obviously, that just might help you in the next weeks or months upcoming to your exams. The first mistake I'm going to be talking about is relying too much on rote learning. I know everyone says, and I do agree with them, that the Leaving Cert is basically just learning off a bunch of information and spitting it onto a page. But honestly, it does depend on what subjects you are doing. I feel like this is a big problem when it comes to like the sciences or maths or languages. Biology, you'd probably get away with it, but all the other ones I mentioned, probably not. I'm sure you probably know, but rote learning is basically when you just learn everything off. You've no idea what it means, you just learn it off and you just write it down on the page. And that's great and everything if you're able to do that, but honestly, when it comes to the subjects that I mentioned, like the sciences and languages and maths, the questions aren't going to be phrased the exact same way all the time. There might be a different way that you need to approach the question. It's not just going to be something that you can just write down on paper. The questions are going to be phrased differently and you might need to approach it in a different way. And so you can't just learn the answer off from another past paper question and spit it down. Sometimes in biology this works fine because quite a lot of the questions are very repetitive, and so repetitive that the questions like don't change that much. But definitely for the languages, maths and the other sciences, they change a lot. Just for example, for physics, like explaining something could be coming from any angle. All of the maths questions in the physics paper and chemistry are all going to be different. And so you just can't really rote learn anything off, because most likely if you just write down what you know on that topic that they're asking about, you're not actually answering the question and therefore will probably just get 0 marks. This also applies to languages. So like French, I was really bad at, and I would literally just rote learn off paragraphs and paragraphs for essays. But when I came to my actual Leaving Cert exam, I had nothing to write about why I liked books. That was literally the essay I had to write. And I had nothing on it. And I literally remember writing about the Leaving Cert, just the Leaving Cert, because all I had memorized was that was similar enough to books was about the Leaving Cert. So definitely for languages, rote learning does not work. It might for the oral because you know specific questions are going to be asked, but definitely for the written exam, it doesn't work. So definitely what you need to do, especially for the sciences, you need to be understanding all of the topics. You need to be able to explain those topics in your own words so that you're able to answer any question that gets thrown at you and actually answer the question. And same for the languages, you have no idea what they're going to ask you to write about. So you need to have vocab for everything. Yes, you can rote learn that vocab, but obviously you need to know what it means so that you can use it. But honestly, that's probably one of my biggest tips, because I know people are great at rote learning, but in a lot of the subjects it just doesn't really work. And you're just gonna lose marks on it, because my French exam went horribly because I wrote about the Leaving Cert. The next thing I'm gonna be talking about is not having a backup plan. This kind of only applies to Leaving Certs and not Junior Cert students, because obviously the Junior Cert doesn't actually go anywhere or do anything. But for the Leaving Cert, obviously we all have great goals and want to get our first choice in our CAO or whatever, or have a certain amount of points that we want to get. But when it comes down to it, yeah, you might be doing great in class exams, you might be doing super well, you're on track to get your H1 or whatever. But on the day of the exam itself might be a horrible exam. Also, you might just crack under pressure and it might go horribly. People might feel super confident and be like, nah, that won't happen to me. Everything's fine, it's gonna be a great exam, I'm not gonna crack. But you honestly don't know until you sit down there and experience what a real Leaving Cert is like. You have no idea how you will act or what the paper is going to be like, because there's always a year every couple of years that there's an awful paper in every subject. And I know a lot of people just have their first choice in their CAO and then all the ones after that are just random ones they threw on because they're like, oh, I'm not going to get it. But there is a likelihood that you will. If it's something like medicine you want to go into and you don't get it, you need to have a backup plan of how you're going to go into medicine using the back doors, because I promise you there is back doors into every single course. Even if you're the smartest person out there, you still might not get it. You can't count on it 100% that you are getting into that course. So please have some backup plans prepared. Have your CAO actually organized that you will be happy with your first like 7 courses. Obviously when it comes to the bottom end, you're kind of just throwing random ones on, but you really do need to be happy with the first couple of courses, that if you get it, you're not going to be really sad about it, because there is a possibility on the day that exams will go badly, or if you're doing medicine, the HVAT will go badly, things like that. The next thing I'm going to be talking about is ignoring your weaker subjects. I have talked about this before in previous videos, and I don't know if this is everyone who does this kind of thing, but I know I definitely did. I think when you find subjects that you really like and you're really good at, you just want to do them constantly, because you know that when you're answering your past papers, you're going to get them right. It's a great feeling of success. You're doing well. No one wants to go and do a subject that they're really bad at. It doesn't give you that same hit of dopamine, but they are honestly more important than anything, because if there's subjects that you're just constantly getting H1s and you're really good at them, you know everything about them, you can answer all past papers, there's no reason to be spending a huge amount of time on them anymore, especially this close to the exams. Even though you might enjoy doing them, well, to some extent, obviously it's still schoolwork, you really need to focus on the ones you're not so good at, because most likely in the ones you're good at, you're going to get your H1 or your H2 that you're predicted to get, and that's great. So it's the ones that you're not doing so well and maybe getting H5s, H4s, I don't know, that you want to do better in. You can go from a H5 to a H4 a lot easier than going from a H2 to a H1 in other subjects. So you really need to work on those subjects, even though you might hate them so much because you're so bad at them. You really, really need to work on them, because if you get from that H5 to a H4, that difference in points could make or break if you're going to get into your top choice. For me, I was awful at French. I wasn't counting Irish because that was my 7th subject. But French I was so bad at, and I hated studying it. But I really should have put more effort into it just to get up to that next grade boundary and get those extra points, instead of just focusing on the sciences and maths in order to get my H1, even though I was already on the road to getting that. I know it's boring, but please, even if it's not like sitting down your desk and doing your least favorite subject for 4 hours, just try do like 30 minutes of it a day, just to try keep it up in your brain, because I know nobody likes doing it, but it's really necessary if you want to maximize your points. The last thing I'm going to be talking about is procrastination. Obviously this is a very general thing to say, but honestly it goes along with the last point of not focusing on your weakest subjects, because when it gets to the week before that subject that you don't like, for me it was French, gets to the week before, I start cramming everything, and there's too much information in your head, none of it is actually going into your head, and then when it comes to the day of the exam, you are just trying to remember everything to spit back out on the page. Again, rote learning. So when you're cramming, you have to rely on rote learning, you don't have time to understand things. So procrastination in general is just bad, leads to rote learning, leads to just leaving your weaker subject. So please don't do it. It's not worth it. No matter how much you hate a subject, it will never be as bad than cramming the night before the exam. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video and it gave you some insights and some tips and tricks into the Leaving Cert. I hope studying is going well. Obviously your exams are coming up soon, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye!
Also guys, be sure to check out the ExamRevision courses and bundles. I actually have a 20% off code for you. I'll put it on the screen now. They cover majority of the Leaving Cert and Junior Cert subjects. They have H1 standard notes, video lessons, presentations, quizzes, exam questions, everything you will need to succeed in the Leaving Cert and Junior Cert.